Hi guys, welcome to another edition of the Masters Fantasy Football League's Dynasty Spotlight Series. Before we hop into today's show, just want to tell everybody, if you're not in any Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues, we highly recommend it. Way more fun than just a typical season-long league.
Absolutely.
Here, the fun never stops. We got trading all off-season. We got rookie drafts in the summer. Just a lot of fun. Year-round, going back and forth with your friends. Send each other trade offers. Talk rookie draft.
Yeah, it's the best. And even if your team stinks, you've got something to look forward to because then you can start just planning for the future, looking at college guys, which is why you've stumbled upon this video most likely.
Yeah. Speaking of if your team stinks, if you haven't checked out the Sorcerer series, that's something that John Beast, the owner and CEO here at Masters, has been working on. He loves rebuilding teams, tearing down, acquiring picks. He'll tell you all the ways to do it. I've seen him rebuild some teams in crazy ways over the years.
Oh, yeah.
The one league that we've been a part of for about 5 years now, I remember his team was really good, then he kind of completely tore it up, and I remember thinking, what's this guy doing? And now his team's better than it ever was. So a guy that's seen a lot of fantasy football, seen it evolve over the years, and just kind of knows how to bring it full circle.
Right.
But,
yeah, so if you're new to the Dynasty game, go check out those videos because they will definitely be helpful in your building of a Dynasty.
Yeah, so with all that being said, let's hop into today's edition of the Spotlight Series. We're going to hit on Penn State tight end Pat Freiermuth. He's a big guy, listed at about 6'5", 260. Been nicknamed Baby Gronk. I believe he grew up in the New England area, so that's part of it. But we won't get into his pro player comps too much just yet.
Not yet, yeah.
But we'll let the doc break down his game a little bit first.
All right. Well, I don't really have a ton to say about Pat Freiermuth because, he's just really, really, really good. And, before Kyle Pitts had the outstanding season he had, Pat Freiermuth was like, he's the guy, the first-round tight end. He's going to be just a great pro tight end. They compared him to guys like Gronk because he has such a great combination of size, athleticism. He's anything that you can want in a tight end. Great ability to go up and get the ball, similar to Pitts. Good hands, good routes, and like I said, the athleticism for a guy that's that big. It's incredible, really. And, I could go on and on about how good he is, but I'm just going to tell you right now, he's an elite tight end, and he's going to be a stud in this league. And for that reason, I feel like the pro player comp's pretty easy. And even though he's baby Gronk, I'm going to compare him to Travis Kelce.
Ooh, I like it.
I feel like the height, weight is almost identical, very athletic guys, and I think, the sky's the limit for Pat Freiermuth, and I think he's going to be really good. I think a lot of people are just kind of forgetting about him because he only played 4 games last season, but trust me, he will be someone that you remember quickly once he's back on a field this coming fall.
Yes, you said it all right there, and I really can't hype him up more than that. Baby Gronk is, what you'll see a lot of out there, but I actually do agree. Like, his game reminds me more of a Kelce-like tight end than a Gronk, just because I think he's, got a little more wiggle in and out of breaks and just has, I don't know if I want to say more of that kind of build, but truly looks more like Kelce than he does a Gronk, but still just kind of his own player, as a lot of these guys are. Hard to just, say they're a spitting image of this guy, because they're all different and each their own. So
definitely.
So don't want to get too carried away with the comps, good or bad. But there's a lot to be excited about. Any destinations that you can think of that just really jump out as that'd be a great landing spot for him?
It's tough because I feel like any team that needs a tight end, he could slide right in and it would make a ton of sense. As much as, it's funny because I think New England off the bat, they don't really have a tight end. A lot of quarterbacks moving around this offseason. Maybe they end up with one of these veterans instead of having to go young. And in that scenario, you add a Pat Freiermuth to the team, which is something they haven't had since Gronk retired. I kind of like that. It all makes sense. He's from the area. I think it would be a good fit. Let him carry on the namesake.
Yeah, I like it. Another spot that I like is, I know they've got Ebron and Vance McDonald, but I just think he could, really make a career.
Vance McDonald retired, didn't
he?
Oh,
actually, he did.
That's right.
Had some concussion history and some other injuries, so they signed Ebron the offseason before this one. But I think Pittsburgh's a place where they've been, ever since Heath Miller retired, they've just been missing that, franchise tight end. And anywhere you're talking cold weather, I just feel like those tight ends matter a lot more, both in the run game and pass game. Hard to get the ball downfield outside the numbers when it's 15 degrees and snowing sideways. But those tight ends, Kelsey's making a living doing it. Gronk made a living doing it. These cold weather places, you just love a good, reliable tight end.
Yeah, absolutely.
But really, I guess what we're trying to get at, though, is anywhere he lands, he's going to be good. Even if they have an established tight end, he's going to immediately be an amazing number 2 tight end and can easily transition into that top dog. So
right. It's funny, I almost said Houston, but I mean, if Watson's leaving, there's no point. I mean, they still could draft him, but I wouldn't be as excited about him. I will say, though, one came to mind as you were talking, for whatever reason, thinking about Vance McDonald retiring. Greg Olsen also retiring.
Yeah.
Pat Freiermuth in Seattle with DK and Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about the NFC West in general. I mean, obviously not San Fran with Kittle, but even Arizona, they've been, lacking a true tight end. I know the Rams have a pair of tight ends in Higbee and Everett, but I mean, Freiermuth could be better than those guys. But
basically, like Alec was saying, there's plenty of teams that need an elite tight end like Pat Freiermuth. And, I mean, this is the draft because you're going to have him and Pitts. It's going to be interesting to see where those guys end up.
So I feel like in recent history, we've actually seen a lot of tight ends go first round. We had that one year where it's crazy, where, O.J. Howard, Evan Ingram, David Njoku, we saw, 3 or 4 guys go in the first round. Then just a couple years ago, we had the Iowa boys and Noah Fant and Hawkinson. Where do you see him getting drafted in the NFL draft? And then we'll talk more about your Masters rookie drafts.
So, I mean, it seems like he would be a first-round pick in the NFL, at least. Maybe second round, but I'd be shocked, really. He's just such a good prospect on paper. It'd be surprising to me if he slid too far into the second round. That'd be, shocking to me. And with that in mind, if someone were to invest in him with a first-round pick in the NFL or a high 2, I mean, it's hard not to take him in the first round. And I know situation, again, it'll dictate a lot. I was big on my guy Cole Kmet, but hated the Chicago landing spot. It didn't make any sense. They had 6 tight ends on their roster already. Trubisky was Trubisky. So I guess a situation like that would have him drop into the second round of a rookie redraft or a rookie draft there. But without that, there's plenty of good destinations, like we said. Most likely, I think, late first round, maybe even mid first round if the spot's that good. Some people aren't big on taking tight ends that early, but I feel like I said the same about Pitts. These guys are so good, I wouldn't be afraid to pull the trigger in the middle of the first round if the destination was good.
Yeah, so I think that's all really spot on in terms of the NFL draft. Definitely think he could and should be a first-round pick. Maybe slides into early second round, but very complete NFL prospect. Mm-hmm. Then in terms of your dynasty rookie drafts, it does get tricky because we've seen a lot of these first-round tight ends kind of flop in their first few years.
Right.
So sometimes there's a buying opportunity there to go trade for them. But in other ways, we see guys who are well worth the investment. I mean, even T.J. Hawkinson hasn't set the world on fire, but he's worth it. Anyone who took mid to late first round.
I don't think they're upset.
Yeah, you're not upset.
It was a tough first season, but now after a top 6 tight end, top 5, whatever he ended up being.
So the truth is, if your dynasty team needs a tight end, you shouldn't hesitate late first round. Now, if that's not your biggest need, maybe you don't pull the trigger quite yet. Because, like I said, I do think there's always a buying opportunity with these tight ends.
Right.
But not if he sets the world on fire year one, which is still a very strong possibility. But tight ends are they're tough to navigate.
Yeah.
And especially in today's day and age, and it's kind of I don't know if a buying opportunity is the right word, but we have such a high drop off after the Kelseys, the Kittles, the Wallers, the Andrews. Hawkinson's there too in Dynasty. But after that, there's a giant drop. There's really no good mid-tier tight ends. So I feel like, with Kyle Pitts and Freiermuth, I do think they can get to the elite category.
Right.
But as a minimum, they should get into that solid second-tier category.
Right.
And I think there's value in that because it's something we've been missing completely.
Right.
We're used to these tight ends who either put up 20 points a game or 7 points a game.
Yeah.
The truth is, I think these are kind of guys who can easily put up 14 points a game. And that could be a big addition to your dynasty team, especially with the possibility that every year they're just going to get better. Hopefully they have some elite seasons like they're definitely capable of.
Right.
But not everybody pans out to be Travis Kelce, even if that is your pro player comp. And so forth. But a lot to be excited about.
Definitely.
Which leads us to our next question, which I think I know the answer, but you got to ask it. In 4 to 5 years, is this someone who's fantasy relevant we're still talking about?
I would say absolutely. And I would venture to say he's right up there with Kyle Pitts in a few years. I think they're both top 5 tight ends. I think 4 years from now, I think they will both be consistently top 5 tight ends, barring injury.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's always a big. I mean, that's what's kept Kittle from that this year, and he's been banged up throughout his career. But that's the only thing that I can see stopping these guys from being true elite tight ends in fantasy football.
What's kind of cool too when you ask this question, 4 to 5 years from now, is just think about the current guys and how old they'll be.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce will be 35, 36, 4 years from now.
Probably should be retired, right?
Yeah. And Freiermuth will be 26. You know? So that's just, 4 years from now, he's going to be entering the prime of his career, while some of these other top tier players are going to be on the second half of their career or even retired.
Right.
So just a lot to be excited
Waller will be in his early 30s too. Yeah. So these are the kind of things you got to think about. These guys aren't going to be there forever.
And we saw the drop off with Zach Ertz this year happen real fast. So it's, it's not crazy to, especially with when the injuries start to mount. Yeah, I love George Kittle. Have him in a few leagues, but every time there's years that go on where the injuries add up, you start to worry. And we saw Gronk retired at was age 30.
A guy that plays like Kittle too. I mean, it's tough. He's so physical and plays so hard. I mean, your body's bound to break down, and we've already seen it. Like you said, it's been a few years. He's really struggled with injury, but he also had that receiving yard record, which I think Kelce broke this year.
He did.
But I mean, he had that season in there with the injuries. So I mean, you got to take the good with the bad. But at the same time, when there's 2 elite tight ends sitting and staring you in the face, not a bad idea to look at them.
Yeah, I also want to point out too, as we've done a lot of these spotlight shows, early on in the draft, the guys we project to go early first, we feel really good about. We're talking about your Jamar Chases, your Devontae Smiths, your Trevor Lawrence, ETN, Najee Harris. Outside of the top 6-ish prospects, it starts to get a little questionable. Not that there's not good players still there, but really there's a big drop off, I think, in the top 6 to the the first 6 of the first round to the second half of the first round. And I think that's where, rather than taking a chance on, the 4th best running back, you can get the number 1 tight end or even the number 2 tight end, and it's just a better bang for your buck, better investment long term than, a guy like Trey Sermon we talked about last show, where, we like Trey Sermon, good prospect, but he's not elite. He's never going to be, I shouldn't say never going to be elite, but I don't think we'll ever be looking at Trey Sermon as, he's a top 3 running back in Dynasty. Where Kyle Pitts and Freiermuth, they have that potential. 4 years from now, we could be saying they're a top 3 tight end. They're a top 5 tight end. And that there's a lot of value there.
Definitely.
So don't be afraid to pull the trigger this year.
Yeah.
But
I probably will a few times, actually.
I'll probably wait till year 2 and try and trade for him then. From this guy who keeps saying no.
Yeah. I can see it. But anyways, that's another show in the books for us. As always, leave a like, leave a comment. Let us know who you want to see us talk about next. Hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. And as always, come on over to mastersfantasyfootballleagues.com. Sign up for a league. Trust me, you will not regret it. It's the best way to play fantasy football, as Alec and I have said many a time. And I mean, you get a chance to draft Pat Freiermuth in your rookie expansion draft. I like those odds. You gotta love that. So Al, anything else you want to add?
I think that's it. Thanks for listening.